Crimson Trace announces Laser Guard Pro for today's most popular concealed carry firearms, combining a red or green laser sight with 150 lumen light, taking personal defense to the next level. Available now at your local dealer.
Hey y'all, it's Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Oh, look out, we is smoking.
All right, we are back. Tom Gresham here. If you'd like to join us, it's really easy. Just give me a call, 866-TALK-GUN or Tom Talk Gun. Obviously, you can check us out on Twitter. I am at Gun Talk over at Twitter. You can follow me there. Our Facebook page is very active. Look for Gun Talk Media. Also on YouTube, same thing. We're putting up videos all the time. If you miss any of the shows here, you can pull them down on pretty much any form of podcast app. You can also find previous shows of Gun Talk Radio on YouTube, of all things. Yeah, we put them there, as well as our Roku channels and Amazon Fire and Apple TV and everything else. We're everywhere, and we have a good time. Also talk about the new guns, what's going on. We do a lot of live videos. You want to sign up for those off of Facebook. So that's kind of what we do. We talk about guns, hence Gun Talk, and that's what this show is. Glad that you could be with us. We, of course, like to talk about gear and what's new and what's going on, but also we will certainly have to always, and I wish we didn't, but we have to talk about politics because we've always been under attack, but we are right now, this month, right now, this day, under attack in so many forms, in so many ways, and frankly, the gun ban cult is being pretty successful in a lot of ways, especially their actions in the states. That's where a lot of it's taking place. A lot of it's happening in the courts as well. And that's part of what we want to talk about right now. We're going to bring in Brandon Combs from the Firearms Policy Coalition. Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Absolutely. First of all, tell people what Firearms Policy Coalition is. It's kind of the new kid on the block, at least in my view, of gun rights groups.
Sure, yeah. The Firearms Policy Coalition started out, we were incorporated in November of 2014, so we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary. Mm-hmm. We wanted to add some different perspective to the debate. Of course, we love to partner with our friends at Second Amendment Foundation and others around the country, but really we wanted to take a sort of fiercely nonpartisan but very objective view and apply that in matters of policy and in law. And so I would say if you were going to characterize us as anything, we're fairly libertarianish.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now, you have a lot of your actions take place in California because that's where you're based, but now I'm seeing a lot of the things you're doing are kind of spread out and they're more on a national level.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're certainly not the largest player in the country by any stretch, but we try to take our resources that we have and use them where we think they can make the most impact, such as in the case of the bump stock cases that we're going to be talking about today.
Exactly. Well, okay, let's do that. We have this executive order, I guess. First of all, for those who don't know, what is the bump stock ban? How did it come about?
So President Trump directed after the Las Vegas shooting for then Attorney General Sessions and DOJ to promulgate regulations through its ATF branch that says that these devices are machine guns and they're banned. So they went through the rulemaking process, and of course we participated in that. And then in December of this last year, they issued the final rule. And the final rule says that in spite of the fact that they said these things were legal for years, and there's really no statutory basis for it, anyone that has one on March 26th of this year is a federal felon in possession of an unregistered machine gun.
I want to get a couple of points out that you touched on, but I want to make sure people understand. For years, the ATF has told anybody who asks, yes, it's perfectly legal to own a bump stock. It's not a machine gun. It's not regulated. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You're good to go. And then they turn around and say, oh, yeah, but, after March 26th, you can go to the federal penitentiary for 10 years for having one of these. So you're going to have to destroy it. No, we're not going to pay you for it. And no, there is no recourse here. You just must destroy it or turn it over to the police, even though we told you it was okay, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, there's reliance interests here for sure. Hundreds of thousands of Americans have these things. And then the federal government changes its mind one day and says, not only are we going to ban these going forward, but if you already have one, even though we told you it was fine, we're going to make you a felon.
And if you look at, and there are very specific regulations of what fully automatic is, and those are in the regs. The bump stock does not meet any of those. It is not, in fact, a machine gun by any definition that exists, is it?
Not at all. In fact, that's kind of central to the cases that we brought, which is that, fundamentally here, the statute says what a machine gun is. And the executive branch doesn't get to make up the law as it goes and just say, well, we want the law to be this. And I think that's really important. Set aside the word bump stock for a second. What if we were talking about triggers or magazines? That's really the question here. Can the executive branch make up the law?
Okay, so where are we now? Because we just had a ruling last week that did not go our way, and a lot of people got bummed out about that. It was not unexpected, right?
No, I mean, ultimately, these are going to be tough cases, and as virtually all of them are. And so, this is going to be something that either the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court ends up laying in on, I think, at the end of the day. So that was sort of a step on along the way, but not the end of the road. We've already appealed. In fact, we appealed minutes after the ruling came out.
What is your advice right now for people hundreds of thousands of people who have bump stocks who were purchased legally? And I want to emphasize, they were purchased legally, and ATF said it's okay to have these, and now they're being told you must destroy them. And I know people are asking you, what do I do? What do I do? What's your advice right now?
Well, I think, first of all, we're going to be putting out a memorandum to the public before the final rule takes effect. There's so much going on right now. Just this last Friday, the Court of Appeals granted our motion to expedite. So we're going to have oral arguments in D.C. at the Court of Appeal on March 22nd. So, first thing is stay tuned. Second thing is you really need to be careful about what publicly is known about what you might have for lots of very good reasons. These are very serious crimes that attach to this final rule. So be very careful.
In other words, don't be putting it up on Facebook and pictures of your bump stocks and everything else, because everybody is cruising that kind of stuff, and nobody's telling you to break the law, but we're just saying be circumspect about that. The other thing is, and I know you were trying to get a stay, and that's what the court ruled against, where we basically say, okay, we're going to have a timeout here. Is there a possibility of getting a restraining order or a stay on this so that people can basically not have to do anything until we get the final disposition on this?
That's exactly what we're going for here in this appeal is, we'd love for the Court of Appeal to say we're absolutely right and tell the lower court to issue an order as such, but really in the short term here, we're trying to get either through the Court of Appeal or some other process that we might use later, some sort of an emergency injunction to protect people and their property while we continue to litigate these issues.
I'm not a lawyer, but I watch this from the outside looking in, and the logic to me says, okay, this does not meet the definition of a machine gun. You can't just have some bureaucracy say, well, now all of a sudden this is a machine gun, even though the law doesn't say it's a machine gun. To me, that seems logical, but of course, that doesn't mean you don't have to fight it. But as I look down the road, I would hope, in my unicorn kind of world where everything is wonderful, everything turns out the way it's supposed to, that the courts would say, this is stupid. You can't just do this, ATF. You can't just do this, White House. The Congress has to pass this law.
Well, precisely right. And there's a case at the Supreme Court right now called Kaiser versus Wilkie. That's dealing with something called hour deference. In this case, our cases with bump stocks, we're seeing something called Chevron deference pop up again, which we knew. In fact, we told the ATF this is exactly what we were going to run into. I think we said it over a year ago. But in any case, the question of whether or not courts must defer to an agency's interpretation And that level of deference, how much deference do they get? That's really central to this. And it's not just about bump stocks, and frankly, not even about guns. This is about the administrative state.
Well, it's about bureaucrats who make regulations that have the weight of law, where no legislative entity ever voted on it, no one ever passed a law. But if the Bureau of Mines or EPA or BLM or anybody else has a regulation, you can go to jail for violating a regulation that has the weight of law but is in fact not a law. That's really what we're talking about, isn't it?
That's right. But Congress is the one that makes laws. The executive branch enforces those. And what's happened is it's sort of become where the Congress makes some sort of a law, and then the executive branch says, well, we want to take that one law and turn it into 20. And that's really what's going on here.
So in the end, this is actually, even though it's really important to gun owners, it's bigger than bump stocks, and it's even bigger than gun rights. That's
right. I mean, these issues are central to our republic and our constitutional system, the separation of powers. And it's so important. And it's, of course, look, we're fighting for the bump stock owners and their property and their rights. But we're also fighting for the future of our constitutional structure. And I think that's what maybe some people didn't see when we first started talking about these issues.
Well, we're talking with Brandon Combs. It's the Firearms Policy Coalition. And if you want to follow up on this, find out what's going on, and also, frankly, if you want to help, because this stuff's expensive, it's firearmspolicy.org, firearmspolicy.org. Brandon, thank you so much. And please, would you keep us posted on the progress on this?
Absolutely will.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. All right. 866-TALK-GUN on your mind. Do you have a bump stock? What's your plan? What are you going to do about that? And even if you don't have one, if you had one, what would you be planning to do with it? Again, 866-TALK-GUN.
Founded with the singular purpose of building fine sporting firearms, Kimber creates a handgun for every person and a rifle for every adventure. While embracing modern manufacturing techniques, every Kimber depends on practiced hands for assembly, fit, and finish. There's no compromise in features, materials, or performance. Synonymous with quality, precision, and excellence, and made in America. Kimber is what all guns should be. Visit KimberAmerica.com. That's KimberAmerica.com.
Want great deals on guns, ammunition, and gear? Download the free Gundealio app today. With Gundealio, you can search for deals, listen to the Gun Talk podcast, watch gun videos, read gun news, and get notifications right to your phone about deals and special offers. Save money on the products you want from the companies you love. New deals, discounts, and rebates added daily. Gundealio, available for free in the App Store and Google Play.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of one football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org. Yeah, I was thinking about this. We were talking during the break. We had Brandon Combs on from the Firearms Policy Coalition talking about the bump stock ban. And Jim offered, he says, well, what's to keep an agency from banning Lamborghinis as being dangerous? And just decide they're going to do it. And I thought, and then kind of one of those thoughts from the Wayback Machine popped into my head. I said, that's what CPSC tried to do. The Consumer Product Safety Commission. It's a commission. It's an agency of the U.S. government, right? It's not a lawmaking body. But as we've talked about, a lot of these agencies, all the agencies, if they have regulatory authority, they pass regulations, they promulgate, if you will, put out regulations that have the force of law. The Forest Service does it, the Park Service does it, everybody does it. And the argument has always been, well, there are just too many things that Congress can't get bogged down with all of that. So they have to turn it over to the experts and let them do it. And thus you get this, I don't know if you'd call it deep state. It is a situation where the laws of the country are actually being created by people who were never elected by us. But back to the history book. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, CPSC, God, this has got to be 30 years ago now. They got a petition, and they put it in the Federal Register that they were going to ban handgun ammunition as a hazardous substance. Now, this is the group that's supposed to look at children's toys and figure out, what's dangerous, what should we regulate, is there lead paint on something that we need to ban? This is actually, think about it. You may have heard the gun ban people say, well, teddy bears are more highly regulated than firearms are. This is what they're talking about. The CPSC regulates actually teddy bears, children's toys. And they're still mad, some 3 decades later, that Congress, the U.S. Congress stepped in and said, no, CPSC. No, this is a Second Amendment issue. You can't ban handgun ammunition as a hazardous substance the way you would lead-painted children's toys. And so the U.S. Congress stepped in and stripped the CPSC of that ability. And to this day, some 3 decades later, the gun ban cult, the gun ban industry, the gun ban lobby still smarts about that because they thought they had found the perfect in-run around Congress, which they're always trying to do because so far they haven't been able to get what they want out of Congress. So when you talk about agencies passing laws or being I guess you call it promulgating regulations that have the force of law, that's the kind of thing we're talking about. That's what the bump stock ban is. And yes, the White House said we want this. And yes, Trump said we want this. Once again, reminding people that just because it's Trump doesn't mean he is on our side as gun owners. Just because they are Republicans doesn't mean they're on our side. The House just passed H.R. 8, the so-called universal background check bill. Gee whiz, it was co-sponsored by Tom King, a Republican. You have to hold all their feet to the fire, and you can't trust any of them as a party. Individuals you can trust. You get to know them. But you can't say, well, the Democrats are always bad and the Republicans are always good. It doesn't always work that way. It's smart to be informed of who's doing what. So basically that's kind of where we are with that. So we go back to the bump stock ban. The ATF puts out a ruling that says the bump stocks are now machine guns. The same agency 2 years ago was giving out letters to individuals, to manufacturers, saying the bump stocks are specifically not machine guns. Nothing changed in the manufacture. Nothing changed in the way they operate. Nothing. When you pull the trigger, it goes bang one time. A machine gun, by definition, when you pull the trigger back and hold it back, it continues to fire until you release the trigger or until it runs out of ammo. That is a machine gun by definition. These are not that. But what happens, we had, of course, the horrible, highly publicized mass murder in Las Vegas, where a guy used these devices to increase the rate of fire. That didn't change how they work, and it didn't change the definition of machine gun. It did change the political landscape. And that's what's really going on there, all right? Let's go to the phones here. Line 3. Joe's with us out of Minnesota. Hey, Joe, we were talking about experiences with gun companies. I understand that you had an interaction with SIG.
Oh, I sure do. First of all, thank you for your show. Love it. Thanks for spreading the word in this crazy world of fake news and uneducated anti-gunners. But, and by the way, I think you have a pretty acute spidey sense. So I am an old, emphasis on old, practical pistol shooter. Never was great at it, but shot stock and started out with some Glocks that I decided to move up from and got a SIG. Mm-hmm. my first SIG, and it, after shooting 118,000 rounds that I had logged through it, I think I had melted the rail, and then there was a burr, and it wasn't operating. I called New Hampshire. They said, send me the gun. Somewhere around a week later, brand new gun in a box. So
which model?
More,
which model gun was it? What was the model number or model?
No, really old and haven't. Don't more, but
you're dropping out. Wherever you move to, Joe, go back to where you were before because your phone's dropping out if you're moving around.
No, I'm driving between Minnesota and North Dakota. My mother passed yesterday, so I'm
sorry.
Delaware, so
gotcha. All right, tell you what, we're gonna, if you would, Michelle, Jim, put him back on hold. Michelle, keep talking with him. As soon as the connection's better, we'll get Joe right back on here because he had this experience with SIG. 118,000 rounds through this gun. It developed a problem. He contacts SIG. They say, send it back. He sends it back, and they send him a new gun. Where, in what world does that happen? In what industry does that happen? Hello, Ford. I have 118,000 miles on this truck, and it's really not working right. No problem. We'll give you a new truck. What? Hello, Frigidaire. I've had this refrigerator for 20 years, and it's broken now. Not a problem. We'll ship you a new refrigerator. I know some people must get tired of me talking about how good the gun companies are. And yet, this happens. And yet, we get this every week. I get emails about this. You're not going to believe the experience I had with fill-in-the-blank gun company. It's awesome with what it is. It's fabulous. And it's unique in my experience. It's unique to our world. And weirdly enough, we almost come to expect it, which is, you could almost say that's unreasonable in and of itself. But it is a pretty cool thing. Do you have a story like that? I'd love to hear it. 866-TALK-GUN.
A girl can't go wrong with something in basic black, like an AR-15.
Some things never go out of style, like Tom Gresham's Gun Talk.
Hey, just a little bit, we'll be talking about some stories I'm sorry. You just kind of have to look at them and go, really? Really? Big story about a police officer whose bulletproof vest saved his life. Yeah. When his gun went off while he was running away from a rabid fox. Yeah, we'll give you all those details coming up. I know you can hardly wait. Line 4, Danny's with us. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Danny, range report. Talk to me, man.
Hi there. I've got my CMP 1911 came in last week, and I know that you had talked about how you apply for that. Well, unfortunately, for those that didn't do it, why the applications are closed now. But
right.
I think I am one of the first 8,000 pistols to be released by the CMP that they got from the Army. And I was number 3,400, and I got mine last week. So I guess if you haven't gotten your number, and there's still hope for you, I guess. What we have to hope for is that they release another 8,000, so they could go all the way. I think they have like 18,000 applications that were approved, and they only have 8,000 in the first lot. They're hoping to get another 8,000. So
tell me about the pistol. How does it look? What'd you get?
It looks good. It's of course Parkerized, but it has a good look to it. I'm happy with it. It has a Colt slide on a Remington Rand frame that was made in 1944, based on the serial number.
Okay.
And new barrel. Pretty sure it's new barrel. I'm sure, I haven't shot it yet, but I'm sure it'll just be fine. I paid, there was only one, they had three classes, different prices. And the only one that was left was the top shelf one, which was the service grade for $1,050. And so anyway, I don't know. A lot of guys probably would say it's a mixed master. They wouldn't want it for that price. But, it's just the idea that who'd ever thought you'd get a gun from the federal government like this, a pistol.
I know. That's so cool.
It's just a historic thing, that you want to be a part of. And
I gather you're going to shoot it. This is not going to be a wall hanger for you. You're going to shoot it.
I think so. I mean, I'm a gun collector, but I shoot all my guns at least once, just to make sure they work. And
all right, let me jump in, because in the minute we have left, I think you also had a comment about bump stocks.
Yeah, you've often commented, Tom, about the guys that walk around on city streets with the rifle slung over their shoulder just to, make a big scene, and how that really sets us back. And that's kind of the way I've always felt about these bump stocks. It was just basically waving a red flag, and it was going to cause us to have a big can of worms. And I think that's where we're at now. We really are in this situation where the Trump administration is using this executive action, which is just horrid. But in a way, we were asking for it with this. That's just my opinion.
But I've heard other people say the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Pardon me?
No, and I've heard other people say the exact same thing: as, hey, this is just a goofy toy and all. And I get that. At the same time, when the ATF says yes, it's legal, own it, and then flips around and says now you're going to become a felon if you own it. That's an issue. That's a real problem.
But it's it opened the door for this, and unfortunately, and now we're where we're at. And one thing, have you ever shot one? My understanding is that once you take the first shot, you can't aim after that. Is that true?
That's not correct. No, that's completely incorrect.
Okay, well, I'm glad you cleared that up for me then.
Yeah, no. I'll give you my quick rundown. They're easy to shoot, they're fun to shoot, and it's quite easy to control them and to produce accurate fire. You can shoot them once, you can get 2 shots, you can manage it, you can manage 3 shots, you can do whatever you want to do with it. And of course, for those who don't know, you can do the exact same kind of firing by hooking your thumb into the belt loop of your pants and shooting a gun and push forward on it. The exact same thing happens. There are a lot of different ways to bump fire a gun that has nothing to do with a stock.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Tell you what, do a YouTube search for bump firing an AR with your belt loop. And then you go,
I'll do that.
I get it now. This is not about the device. And people have been doing this since there were semi-automatic guns and pants with belt loops on them.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's my take. I appreciate that. All right, look, I got to run. We're up against our clock here. I thank you, sir. Let's see. Time to take this quick break here. Our number 866-TALK-GUN. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you know you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
For 36 years, the U.S. Sportsmen's Alliance has been fighting to protect hunting, fishing, and trapping for sportsmen from coast to coast. Today, we are under constant attack from extremist animal rights groups who want to end your ability to hunt in the U.S. Join us to protect our sporting heritage and our way of life outdoors. To join or for more information on how you can help, go to ussportsman.org. That's ussportsman.org.
Back with you, Tom Gresham, 866-TALK-GUN gets you in there. We'll pretty much talk about, any kind of gun that you have. Revolvers. People get wound up about revolvers. They either don't like them and they think that they're stupid and old and why would anybody have them, or they think they're cool and retro and still very useful. It's interesting. And there's a whole generation, heck, there might be 2 generations now, of shooters who have never fired a revolver, never even occurred to them to have a revolver. Well, let's see, that's about how long Glocks have been out, so call it 2 generations. Yeah, that seems fair. Revolvers or no? What do you think? Line 3, JJ is calling us from Pensacola, Florida. Hey, JJ. Do we have JJ on line 3? Hey, JJ, pick up the phone there. Okay, no, we're going to talk to him in just a minute. I had an experience this week. Correction, it was about 2.5 weeks ago, now that I think about it. You remember I was talking about I bought an old, really old, Remington 5mm Remington Magnum bolt action. And we took it out to the range and shot it, and turns out the extractor's broken. Well, it turns out there are actually 2 extractors on these rifles. But I was trying to find the extractor, and you can't find them. And I thought, well, who do I know? Oh, wait, I heard on the radio, my radio show, that if you have a real problem, call the folks at Brownells and ask to speak to one of their techs. So I called the folks at Brownells. I asked to speak to a tech, got a guy, and asked him about it, and he's checked. He says, we don't have any of those. I said, I know. And he says, he says, you know what, there's a couple of outfits that may have them. And he gave me their names, and he gave me their phone numbers. And so I called one. He said, yeah, we actually have those. And I ordered a couple of them. They came in. It's the wrong one, so I'm still in search. I've got the one that I already had, because I say there are 2 extractors. But what was interesting about it to me was that the folks at Brownells, they said, yeah, we know a couple of places that probably have a really good supply of old gun parts. We don't have them, but here's who you ought to call. That's good customer service. All right, looks like we got JJ back now on 3. Hey, JJ, welcome back.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm good. What's the story you got, man?
What?
I think Jay's got a bad phone. Are you there, JJ? Nope, I guess not. I'll tell you what. he's having phone problems or storms or something. Yeah, there's a bunch of storms rolling across the mid part of the country. We've got tornado watches, tornado warnings, all sorts of things. Thinking about, the whole protecting your guns thing. That's a case where, I don't know that safes or anything would take, although they do, think about that. If you got hit by a tornado, I've heard stories of people having gun safes that got picked up by tornadoes and thrown around. But man, that would beat up the guns inside, wouldn't it? If you came back and the house wasn't there and the gun safe was 100 yards away, that would be a beating. It kind of takes you back to the whole, do you have insurance on your guns? Well, I have homeowners insurance. Okay. Have you actually looked at your homeowner's insurance? Are you aware that most homeowners insurance policies have a limit on what they'll pay out for firearms? And usually it's, I think, $2,000. Doesn't take a lot of guns, as in maybe one, to have a value beyond $2,000, which means your guns are not insured. But you can add a rider onto your homeowner's policy, and they're fairly inexpensive. You can get additional insurance through the NRA and other places, but I know the NRA has a really good, very inexpensive, very affordable plan. And I think, if I remember right, somebody could have to help me out on this. Your NRA membership comes with a small policy, but if you want to add on to it, you can do that. I think it covers, like if you want to put binoculars and scopes and things like that on there as well, I think that could be covered. And as I remember, you do not have to list them. Because once again, I don't want to use the word paranoid, but some folks don't want to give out the information about the guns they own. I get that, I understand it. So you don't have to give them a list. Now, if you do a rider on your homeowner's policy, there's a pretty good chance they're going to want a list of what they're insuring. That's what they do. While I'm on the subject of homeowners insurance, there's a company out there, I see their commercials, big company, and they have homeowners insurance. Amica is the name of the company. AMICA. I've gotten a number of reports from people who say they tried to get insurance, homeowners insurance, through Amica. They call them, talk to somebody on the phone, said, "Oh, deal," trying to get lower rates, right? And as the representative from Amica asked them questions, they asked them, "Do you have firearms? Do you have guns?" And, of course, say, "Well, yes, I do." They say, well, then we're not going to write insurance for you. It's not a case of, well, we're going to, have to require a rider on those to cover it. If you have firearms in your house, Amica Insurance will not write a policy, if they know about it, on your house. Huh. Interesting, isn't it? Oh, by the way, I just got a text from a friend. He's asking a question, and I'm going to need some help with it. Does anybody make a 10-millimeter lever action rifle? And I started to do a little bit of searching online, and I'm not sure I have found anything yet. And I actually don't know. Right? I mean, I should know, but I don't know off the top of my head. So I need some help. If you know, if anybody is making a lever action rifle chambered for the 10-millimeter auto cartridge, give me a holler, let me know, okay? Let's see. Also, the Brownells folks are going to be here in just a little bit. They're doing a carbine giveaway. We've got a cool product we'll be talking about there. Also, we've got this from Fred. He writes in, "I was listening tonight about all these new gun grips." He's listening to the podcast of Gun Talk Radio. He says, "Great show, love it. I'm currently reading a fiction book series by William Johnstone, the Ashes series, written in 1983. This author wrote way back then everything that these liberals are doing these days. He predicted our current government so close that it is almost scary. This might be something worth looking into and sharing." I like the meme that says, the novel 1984 was not meant to be an instruction manual. It was a warning. Of course, that was written long, long before 1984. If you go back and look at that, you go, "Whoa, man, that's very close." Also, this one, we put, of course, our videos, our audio from Gun Talk Radio on YouTube. He's responding to comments we made about, and I've always said, you need to belong to as many gun rights organizations as you can. But I think that everybody ought to belong to the NRA. And yes, I know the problems with the NRA. I get it. People go, well, they did this and they did that. Yeah, they're not perfect. Guess what? No, neither am I, neither is anybody. And there are things that they do that I don't agree with. But they are still incredibly powerful. And they are powerful because they have members. If they weren't there, we would have... Here's the bottom line. If they weren't there, we would have a lot more gun control laws. We would have lost a lot more rights, and we would continue to lose rights. Therefore, I think it's important. Anyway, that's been my take. So this was a comment on our YouTube video. He says, "Holy cow, you anti-NRA guys are free to do things in addition to joining the NRA. But if you are pro-gun, membership is the bare minimum you must do. Every pro-gunner that turns his back on the NRA is a win for Bloomberg, Feinstein, and Schumer. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but that is absolute reality." Agree or disagree? It's one of those that really gets people wound up. And there's an awful lot of ego throw in. Well, I'm not going to support them because I am pure. I am the no compromise guy. Okay, great. Except that I really do think it hurts gun rights. And what's interesting is that the other gun rights groups, except the ones that try to make money off of being quote-unquote more pure and no compromise NRA, the other gun rights groups tell you, you ought to belong to them as well. I don't get anything out of it. I'm just telling you what I think, okay? I mean, just there it is. That's just Tom's view. 866-TALK-GUN. All right, I think we have JJ back from maybe a landline with a better connection now. So, JJ, are you there, sir?
Yeah, Tom, I apologize for that.
No, not a worry at all. So, okay. I understand you had an encounter or some interactions with Ruger and Brownells.
Yes, sir. I had bought a Security 9 a few months back, Ruger, and I liked the gun. But after about 20, 25 rounds, I would get a failure to eject, which would result in a double feed. So I did like what, usually what you say, bought some different magazines, tried different ammo, but I kept having the same problem. Anyway, I called up Ruger, said, look, this is what I'm having. They said, send us the gun. I sent them the gun. Within a week, I had the gun back. They changed the extractor, I think it was, and took it to the range, shot 100 rounds out of it, didn't have a problem. They fixed it, So, and then about the same time, I ordered some stuff from Brownells, and I got the confirmation it's been shipped, estimated delivery date, this date. Okay. So I didn't get it that day, so I waited about 3 days. This was last week, and I still didn't get it. So I called Brownells, and I said, look, I was supposed to get this shipment. So they said, well, let us do, they did a little investigating and all that, and then said, it got lost in shipping somewhere. So they said, no problem. We'll resend you the order. So I just got an email, and they're sending me the same stuff I ordered, because the other stuff got lost, no questions asked.
Well, yeah. Were you surprised?
Not with Ruger, but with Brownells I was a little bit, I thought maybe they'd say, well, let us look at it, we'll get back with you. No, I stayed on the phone. It took maybe 5 minutes. They said, well, somehow or another it says it's got lost or it's misplaced. We're just going to resend you the order. So
they didn't like say, okay, we're going to have to go back to UPS or we're going to have to make a claim or any of that stuff. No, it didn't get there, so we're just going to send it to you again. Exactly.
Wow. And, when I told her, I said, look, well, if it does happen to come, I'll just call you and then I'll send one of them back, I don't have no problem with that. But, yeah, it was just nope. They didn't, have any problem at all. We'll just send you the order.
That's great. JJ, thank you for taking the time and really the extra effort to get on the air and talk about that and give that range report. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that call. It's become so common that some of us expect it, and yet it continues to surprise people because, honestly, you're kind of used to getting the runaround, have the burden put on you when there's a problem. Well, we're going to have to do this, we're going to have to do that, and then you get these companies that say, hey, send it back. We'll take care of it. Boom. It didn't arrive? Don't worry. We'll ship it to you again. We'll pull the same order again. We'll ship it to you. And then basically Brownell saying, okay, that's going to be our worry. We're going to take care of trying to track down the first shipment, find out what happened, and get it back if we can. But that's not your fault. And it's going to cost Brownells extra money. At the same time, they've made JJ a customer for life. And it's not, honestly, and I'll tell you, I know this sounds weird, it's not because they're thinking, well, this is going to help us at the bottom line. I don't think. I think it's because they say this is just how you treat customers. This is what happens. I've had people say, look, the firearms industry is old-fashioned. It's an old-fashioned business. You guys really don't know how to do business. And I look at it and go, yeah, it's old-fashioned and we like that. People take care of their customers. They make good products. They stand behind them forever. It's crazy. Lifetime guarantees on a lot of stuff. It's really something. I tell you. When we come back, we'll talk with actually one of these companies and what they're up to. Got new products out there and a cool sweepstakes that you're definitely going to want to enter on that one. Be right back.